This is the Muscle Cat Media Network. You're listening to the Outback QB Daily Podcast. The 2024 NFL season's 2 days away. We've got some key storylines. Let's go. It's a Wednesday, everybody, and the NFL season kicks off on Friday. I'm your host, Curtis DuBois. This is the Outback QB Daily Podcast. If you haven't heard of the Outback QB main podcast, look that up. You can click the little Muscle Cat Media link on the Apple page, or you can just look up Outback QB, and both of them will show up. You can find us on YouTube, Outback QB. You can find us on Instagram at Outback QB Podcast. Now, 2024 is just 2 days away for us here in Australia, and goodness me, how exciting is that? I've got a few key storylines. Well, I've got a lot of key storylines to quickly run you through. These won't surprise you, but it's just a reminder of how much is on the line this year and how much we just don't know. And it's like that every year, but there's something about this season that just feels extra special. A few exciting moves in the offseason, a few extra intriguing storylines and team stories from last year that are just so up in the air. There's a few that I'll run through first, and then I'll just go through all the rest of my unanswered questions, all of which we will, of course, answer on Muscle Cat Media throughout the year. The first one, the New York Jets. It's round 2 with Rodgers. They've rebuilt the O-line. They got in Tyron Smith. They got in Morgan Moses. They drafted Olu Fashanu. Can they protect him? Can he still move? Can he still throw the ball? Is he still the genius that he once was, the multiple MVP winner, the Super Bowl winner from all those years ago? Can he finally bring some joy and some Super Bowl glory to the New York Jets? Robert Saleh, his job's on the line. No playoff wins, I reckon he's gone. Certainly if they don't make playoffs, he's definitely gone. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner. Can those guys finally get their crack at playoffs with a decent quarterback under center? Is Aaron Rodgers still that decent quarterback? Then you got the Browns. Deshaun Watson. Speaking of decent quarterbacks, he was one. He used to be. And now he's got that ill-fated $250 million contract. It's year 3. It's year 3 of that. And in the first 2 years at Cleveland, he's produced 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in 12 games for 2,100 yards. Just to break down that financially, if we're looking at it very basically at, say, $50 million a year, that's $8.3 million per touchdown. That's $47,000 US per yard thrown. Per yard thrown. Extraordinary stuff. Has to happen. Has to happen this year. The Chiefs, can they be the first team in the modern era to do the three-peat? Now, Packers fans will say, and it's correct, that they won 3 championships in a row. The Packers did. Just before the Super Bowl era started, they won the last championship, and then they won the first 2 Super Bowls. So that counts as a three-peat. But if we're talking just Super Bowl, just three-peat, no one's done it. Can the Chiefs be the first to do it? I mean, Mahomes, he's got those weapons that he didn't have last year. We know that. Will they transform him? Will they transform him from already one of the GOATs to maybe even in the conversation of the GOAT? Still a few years to go with that. We know that. Jim Harbaugh, he's back in the NFL after his win with Michigan. Can he clean up those LA Chargers? Is it a full rebuild or not? Some people think it is. I do. Some people don't. I mean, it's never a full rebuild when you have Justin Herbert. But is Herbert as good as we thought? Was his early year or two, was that an anomaly? Is he just coming back down to earth as just an above-average quarterback as opposed to a super elite quarterback? Or does a competent coach and a competent system around him finally unlock the Justin Herbert we hoped we would get throughout his career? Caleb Williams, yet another savior for the Bears. Could this be real? Bryce Young, we saw what happened last year, but this is a better situation, right? Trevor Lawrence, he's good, but he's not what we thought he would be coming out of college as the can't-miss number 1 absolute transformational superstar pick that we thought he was. Is Caleb Williams different? They're all different at this time of year. The number 1 pick is always a difference maker a few days out from the first game. Rubber meets the road. Let's see what happens there. The Houston Texans, the Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions, they were the darlings of the NFL last year, attacking, exciting, fresh, new, young quarterbacks doing good things. Well, except for Jared Goff. He was played like a young quarterback. Resurgent career from nowhere. Dan Campbell, D'Amico Ryans, Matt LaFleur, cool young coaches, spunky players everywhere on those teams. How much goodwill carried them last year? How much substance is there in year 2? History would say, out of these exciting teams, there's normally one that skyrockets, there's normally one that stays about the same, and there is more than likely one that declines. I don't know who that is out of those 3, but I'm pretty sure there will be one. So we'll wait and see. And then we've got Tom Brady in the box. Tom Brady's in the box. 10 years, $375 million. by the way, in case you've forgotten. $375 million contract for Tom Brady's commentary. An untested commentator. Yes, he's the greatest player of all time. Can he commentate? We're about to find out. How does Greg Olsen feel about that? You can check our Gutsy Calls episode coming up tomorrow on the main pod for a revision of the Greg Olsen situation. Which teams rise out of the mire? Do Arizona and Washington become competitive for the first time in a while? Are the Saints and Raiders any better than they were last year? Do they drop off? Do they fall right into the quagmire? Can the Pats and the Panthers manage more than 2 or 3 wins this year? I don't know. I'm worried about both of those. I don't know who's worse. But again, one of them will not be as bad as we think, and one of them will be just as bad as we think. That's normally how it works. When you've got a couple of teams that you think are terrible, one's normally, not that bad. One normally is. We'll see which one it is. Then I've got just a whole bunch of unanswered questions, and I'm going to rattle through these as quickly as possible just to get you thinking. Will the dynamic kickoff change anything, or is that just more of the same? Are the Bills on the slide? Can the Eagles arrest their momentum, the slide from the end of last year? Can the Ravens and Lamar deliver in the playoffs? Does Derrick Henry change anything there? Is CMC still at the peak of his powers? Is Brock Purdy going to perform as well as last year? Has that San Francisco offense or team generally got too many scars from not quite getting over the hump? How does Kyle Shanahan approach that? What does the post-Aaron Donald Rams team look like? Do the big defensive guns of TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Aiden Hutchinson, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons continue to dominate and take the league by storm, or does someone else step up? Can Khalil Mack follow up his career year at the age of 33? 17, 18 sacks last year, 6 in a game. Can he do that again? Who ends the season as the Steelers' QB? Have the Commanders, Pats, and Broncos found their QB of the future? Has Atlanta? Does Cousins dominate? Does Penix, in some strange world, get it looking this year? Is the number 8 pick? I mean, they underutilized their number 8 pick in Bijan Robinson last year. Do him and Jahmyr Gibbs dominate? Are they the superstar running backs this year? Does Robinson finally get his use the way we thought he should have last year? Is this Mike McCarthy's last year at the Cowboys? There wasn't a defensive player picked until number 15 in the draft. Which one of those dominates? Is it Latu? Is it Murphy? Is it Turner? Verse? Is it one of the Robinsons, or is it someone else from the later rounds that we have overlooked? Can Joe Burrow, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson return from injury and be what they were? We only saw a very short sample size of Anthony Richardson. Will his injuries continue? Is he the superstar that we think? We saw 3 or 4 games and we thought, well, this guy's pretty good. But we didn't see a whole lot else because of all sorts of factors. He's almost a rookie quarterback again. Is Sam Laporta going to be the best tight end in the league? Is George Kittle, Travis Kelce, are they still up there? Are they still those boys? Will Kyle Pitts finally do something, or can we put that argument to bed? Who gets sacked first? And finally, big question for me, does Bill Belichick get a job this year? And I don't mean in the media. Do we see Bill coach again? I'd love to see him pick up a team just with his disgruntled, methodical ways. Pick them up by the scruff of the neck and get them back into contention. I've missed questions because there are hundreds more, and you're probably screaming about one that I've forgotten. But I do this very short episode and this question-filled episode for one reason, and that is to whet your appetite for what's to come in 2 days. And I'll make the point now that Musclecat Media, the Outback Quarterback Podcast, myself, Doss and Hawley, we have got you covered. Everything that happens this year, we've got it. Whether it's the daily show, whether it's the main show, every Tuesday, every Thursday, we cover every game. We preview every game. We review every game. We have our own MVP award. We have our own segments. We've got gutsy calls. We've got a win total competition. We've got 6 divisions of a fantasy competition. Just 3 fellas in Musclecat Studios, and we're bringing that all to you this year. You don't need to go anywhere else. We're not ESPN. We are Musclecat Media, and we've got you. We'll see you tomorrow.